You're just going to sit down?
Yeah, I think, why don't we all just sit down for a sec?
Later this month, he appears in the Grand Budapest Hotel, the latest film by Wes Anderson, who is one of his closest collaborators. He is a pop culture icon and has been called by The New Yorker one of the world's most appealing hipsters. I spoke with him recently, and we talked about many things, including the life that he lives.
What was the attraction of Monuments Men for you?
Well, the story is such a story that most people have never heard. The story of a core of, like a clique, a platoon of guys going out to hunt down the stolen art.
Who were artists rather than soldiers.
Who are artists rather than soldiers, and mature men, not warriors, not enlistees and not draftees, but guys who are past the warrior, soldier stage, asked to join the effort and go on this hunt.
We forget in times like this in war that one of the casualties of war is cultural treasures.
Right. Well, Iraq was a big one, right?
Yeah,
where,
exactly.
We sort of cleaned house in Iraq. We sort of won the war in 95 minutes or something. But their museums were looted and robbed. And I don't know if that stuff's ever been tracked down.
A lot of it has, I think.
Yeah. But that's something that really goes, and things disappeared. And with the sort of systematic looting of the Western Europe museums by Hitler and his people, they really took a lot of stuff that, the story of just a few months ago, they're still finding it.
Yeah, exactly.
What did they say that was worth? $1.5 billion or $4.5 billion?
A lot of them, one
guy.
One guy had done that. So there's the story. It's a great story, based on a book by Robert Edsel, I think. Did you read the book?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you read the book before you accepted the role, or did?
No, George told me George told me the story of the movie a year before while eating, pasta and salad, and I just went, oh God, that sounds so good. But then, I thought, I wish George would have asked me to be in that movie. It sounds so good. And then 9 months later, he said, are you busy?
And you said?
Yeah, I'm not busy. I mean, I'm busy, but I'm not that busy.
Not that busy. Did you like the character?
Yeah, it was great. It's a sort of a composite. We didn't name anyone. We didn't use anyone's name, but it was a handful of men, and you put them together. The character was great. I mean, the character as it was written by Grant Heslov and George was just a wonderful character. Every actor in the movie has great stuff to do. Every actor is given
it's a hell of a cast.
A home run swing,
about it.
a couple of home run swings throughout the film.
Yeah.
And so it's really made for you to have great turns, great scenes, while you're telling a story, this interesting story.
And how does George work as a director?
George is extremely well prepared. George comes to work in a great mood every day. It's the lightest set I've ever been on, really. I usually feel like I have to be the one that keeps things light. I'm always trying to calm people down or loosen them up. George was and Grant, they were both hilarious all the time. And you put all those people in one place. We got more tall tales and lies and stories to tell, as John says it.
The making of the movie is more...
You'd stop, you'd shoot a scene, and then you'd stop, and then you would just balderdash for 25 minutes and just laugh. And really, you'd laugh until you hurt. It was that hard, because people are pulling out their best stories to just throw them over the top of the previous one. And
you can't top this, can you?
Yeah, and you could, and people did top them. It was really fun. It was really like the Old West.
Yeah. He's a prankster, too.
Well, he's famous for playing a lot of pranks, and he didn't do so much on this one. He had one good one on Matt Damon. Matt Damon had this event. He was going to renew his vows with his wife, and he was working out all the time, so it really looked like he did when he first got married or something. And George told the seamstresses on the film to take in his pants 1/4 of an inch every 2 weeks. So he'd go away and he'd come back and he'd put the pants on, and all of us knew, but everyone was, dead faced and, deadpanning, looking at him. And you see just the look on his face, like, God, it was...
Locations were good, too.
Well, Berlin's pretty great. I don't know if you've spent any time there, but it's really nice. It's really a bubbling place. It's an artist colony, and very unique even in Germany. It's sort of like Austin, Texas. It's very different than Texas.
Exactly.
Berlin is very different than the rest of Germany. And all the artists of Europe flee there because it's inexpensive. It's very reasonable to live. People live like sort of like socialists. There's the squatters and so forth. I know an American guy who was like a socialist here who moved to Berlin, and he rents out his little sort of place, and he squats somewhere else. You know, he's just a crazy guy. But
I know a lot of architects have done buildings there. I mean, there was a sense of a great, almost one of the great towns for architecture anywhere, because after the reunification and everything, they were really building and having an opportunity to build great things.
Yeah, there's a lot of new stuff, and the old stuff. The funny thing is, like, even though I would think like Berlin would be a wreck, they bombed the heck out of it. But what they didn't bomb, it is a fairly good-sized city. What they didn't bomb is completely intact, because on the East German part of town, nothing changed, because no buildings changed, nothing was built. So all the apartment buildings are beautiful. You walk through blocks and go, my gosh, look at this. It's like, you know, you see a row of townhouses in New York and say, what a great street. There's lots of streets like that in Berlin.
And the nightlife is good.
The nightlife is the night and day life. They really go hard. They're not, they show, I mean, the Germans were working with, like, yes, we are going to dance night, you know, and dance night lasts 41 hours. They go out and they go for a day and a half, it lasts.
How do you decide whether you want to make a movie or not?
Sometimes the people involved, like
George.
Well, George, or Wes Anderson.
Oh, yeah.
Someone, he just says, you want to do the job? I say, sure. You know, what time, where
Without
are we going?
knowing anything.
I don't even
When Wes called, you're there.
Yeah.
And if George called again, you'd be there.
Yeah, absolutely. All of us would come for George tomorrow morning in Greenland. I mean, it was really wonderful to work, to be that well taken care
Yeah,
of.
but does it make it difficult if he's also one of the stars of the movie? Because he's acting and directing.
Well,
And in this case, he wrote the screenplay along with Grant.
that could be a hazard. You know, you could think that would be a problem, and with another actor, you're absolutely right. That might be a problem. But what he does in this movie is selfless. He's doing all the grunt work. Yeah. He's doing all the plot line. He's telling all the facts. He's doing all that stuff. Just really severe. Those aren't really huge emotional moments that he's got. It's like selfless, serving stuff, and he gives us all the merry-go-round stuff. We all have the great stuff, and he's doing the service work.
You want to direct?
I co-directed once with Howard Franklin, a movie called Quick Change a long time ago. I really enjoyed it, and I thought I was going to do it every year for the rest of my life. But then life changed, and I haven't done that again. But I'd like to do it, and I think if you can direct a movie, you should direct a movie, if you're able to. You know, I'll probably do it again when life slows down a little bit, when I have a little more space.
Your life is interesting, and it seems that it's not a carefully thought out and well-planned life.
What a nice way of saying that.
It's
I've
like,
never heard anyone be so compassionate towards me. That's really nice.
well, it's true. It has the additional advantage of being true.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I'm a little bit seat in my pants. I try to be just alert, you know, and available. I try to...
See, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Be available so that you're not so on a treadmill that you don't see or take advantage of something.
Yes. And I mean more than just for work. I mean available for work, but available just for life to happen to you, you know, that we're living this life, we're in this life, and if you're not available, the sort of ordinary time goes past and you didn't live it. You know, the day passes and you didn't live it. But if you're available, then life gets huge. You jump up dimensions. Life becomes much more full. You're really living it.
Yeah, I mean, it's that old maxim, too, about half the game is being in the arena. You know, by saying yes and being in the arena, you can experience so much more.
Well, yeah, and yes to life. It's like, yes, this is not easy for me to pay attention. This is not easy life, you know, and it's not easy to really engage all the time. It's so much easier to zone, you know, to get distracted, to daydream, to do something, but to be available and to be there, then because things are happening all the time to us, and if you're not aware, that you miss them, you know, you just
Yeah,
miss
but you
them.
seem to be a guy who reads a lot, too. I mean, you're really aware. I mean, in reading about you, and I was struck by the point that someone asked you who you'd really like to meet, and you said Einstein and Mendel and Gregory Mendel, who was
Mendel,
Gregor
Mendel.
did all the stuff about genealogy.
Mm-hmm.
So these are two scientists.
I get excited about science stuff because they're sort of laws. They're laws of nature, and if they're laws of nature, then they're sort of like heavenly laws, and they're sort of laws inside of you too. So if you could get someone to tell you, explain a little bit, and crack your head, just turn your skull a little bit, so you heard something a little differently. It just came in your ear differently and landed differently. You'd understand something more about life.
Where do you live?
Well, right now I live in South Carolina.
Why?
Well, life took me there. Life took me there. And so that's where my sons are, and that's where I am.
You like South Carolina?
Yes, I really do like South Carolina. I didn't choose to go there, and I kind of, but I love it there now. I really like it there. The people are kind, and the place is beautiful.
Good place to be a parent.
Yes, it's easier. It's easier than being a parent in New York was. Being a parent in New York was quite a bit harder.
Because I read somewhere that when you're in L.A., you bunk at George's house.
Well, I've done that, but no. Bunking at George's house, wherever George's house is always a pretty good place to be because, there's
a nice party.
It's easy. It's easy. Yeah. But where you are, I like to go. I like to go around America. I like it. We're going to go on this little trip now. We're going to go to Berlin. We're going to do a little press junk. We're going to go Berlin, Milan, London, and Paris. And you tell people, I got a week. I got to go to work, and that's my job. That's where I got to go for a week.
But you were telling me that George allowed you to fly in and do the movie and then fly out. So you had.
It was spectacular. They allowed me to go back and forth from Berlin to South Carolina every 2 weeks, so I could keep my house together and keep the guys rolling, keep the plate spinning, keep those guys going and still do the job. And he did that he made it for everyone. Mine was maybe the most difficult, but I've never had anyone do that for me. It was something.
Do you look for, when you're looking what you're going to do next, are you actually out there letting people know that I'd really like to be making movies?
No. No. And I quit every once in a while. I sort of retire. I quit every once in a while.
Or you vow you're going to quit after certain movies because you think, one, it was really great, and how can I ever top that?
I did do that. I really thought that. I made a movie with Jim Jarmusch called Broken Flowers, and I thought, I can't do any better than that. He wrote a beautiful script. He directed it beautifully. He edited all my lousy stuff out. It was perfect. I just thought, I gotta stop. I should stop right now. I should get out like John Elway and just get out. And I thought, and now I'll just look for that other career. And I looked around, and I have no other skills, Charles.
That's tough.
I can't do anything else. This is it.
I've interviewed some people boxers, for example, Sugar Ray Leonard. I said to him, why are you coming back? Because he'd made a lot of money and had managed it well.
Right.
So he had all the money he needed. He had no problem.
I have.
You know what he said to me? It's because it's what I do. It's what I know.
Yeah.
That's why.
I remember having the conversation with him the night he first made the $30 million. I said, man, you should quit. You look good. I can understand you. Don't box again. And he came back twice more after that.
I know. Because that's what he knew.
That's right.
Yeah.
But I don't think I can quit now. And I really like doing it.
I don't think I can quit now because you love doing it.
I really like the action of it. I like it. I have to be myself to do it correctly. I have to really work it's the best I am is when I'm working, because it's, you talk about being present, you talk about being alert and aware and everything, but I know that because it's going to be on screen, I'm going to get to see myself failing to be alert and aware. So it really is such a strong, powerful reminder to work at it, to really be, just in the game, to be there. So I like it, and I enjoy I like the whole gypsy mentality of the movie business, where you get together with a bunch of people, you live like very intimately for a couple of months, and then you scatter, and you may never see these people again. But in that short time,
there's an intensity of the experience.
Absolutely.
While you're there.
Very intense, very close. People just really slave. There's no limit to how hard you can work on a film. I used to think I used to really think that about only film. I realize it's like that about parenting too, but you can work so hard on a movie. There's no limit to how hard you can go. And you get in this harness with other people that are working hard, and it's exciting. You know, like with these guys here, it's like they all know that, you know. So it was like cool. You'd see someone, you know, they made a big thing about like we're in the snow and we're working and in the mountains, something like that. Cut, we got to go to the next thing. And John Goodman and I just pick up like sandbags and boxes and start walking. And they're like, what are they doing? Well, we're going to the next site. You know, we're all in this together, and this is what we do, is how we do it.
Are you still learning?
Well, I don't, this was unusual. I've never been in a movie with a bunch of movie stars before. It was very different to see that, to see how you go. And, you know, with George, you do like 1 or 2 takes, and, you know, good actors, you don't, you know, you got it pretty much. But it was interesting how the spacing, there's a sort of a different spacing. There's everyone's tempo is just a little bit slower, a little bit, it's like we're talking about professional golfers. Their tempo is slower and smoother, you know, and that's like real big time actors, their tempo is slow and smooth. And to be in a group where everyone's slow and smooth like that, it was different to have everyone
But
in that.
you're watching, you're absorbing.
Yes, you're always getting something. I mean, it's fun to watch someone like John Goodman, who's such a natural actor, and yet it takes work. You know, you can't, you know, people say, oh, he's not acting, he's just being himself. Well, it's hard to be yourself.
Yes.
It's hard to be yourself. Show me some, you know what I mean? It's impossible. It's the hardest job there is, right? It's harder than anything. Just be yourself. It's so hard.
I mean, when I did that little small part with George, he said that, you know, you do a great Charlie Rose. I thought, well, that's maybe a compliment.
It is a compliment. It is a compliment. It is a compliment. And I'm sure he meant it that way. It's kind of a joyous thing it's fun to be here, but it's fun to work with people that are enjoying their job. You enjoy your job. I mean, you've done, I don't know how many years you've done this job, but you know, you just seem to be
More than 25.
Okay, and yet for you, you light up when the camera turns on.
And it's as fresh as it was when I first started doing it.
Yeah.
And the excitement and the interest and all of that. And because it's unpredictable too. You don't know where it's going to go.
Yes, and you get to meet just a huge range of people, an enormous section.
If you don't learn
of life.
something doing what I do, then something's wrong with you.
Yes, you're so lucky. You're so lucky. I mean, luckier than hell.
Thank you very much. I'll say my prayer tonight. All right.
Yeah.
So you made your mark in Second City.
Mm-hmm.
Improvisational. I would assume that that's great training for what you have done with your life. That was a perfect foundation.
Yes. I've been really lucky. People say, hey, how can I make it in show business? And say, well, God, I'm only the luckiest guy in the world.
Yeah.
I'm not the right person to ask. You know.
Yeah, well.
But I was really lucky. I got to go, my brother Brian was in Second City ahead of me. So I got to watch he and Harold Ramis and Joe Flaherty and John Belushi and all these guys ahead of me. And I was just hiding, so I wasn't getting in trouble in my own house. So I would go to the theater and watch these guys with no intention of ever doing it myself. And I got
no intention of doing it yourself. What did you think you would do?
I didn't. Well, I wanted to be a doctor once upon a time, but that turns out you got to study. That wasn't going to happen. I didn't know what I was going to do. I had no idea what I was going to do. I had trouble holding jobs because they want you there on time and stuff.
No, that's right.
That wasn't going to work.
And didn't want you to play by the rules.
No, this acting, working in the theater, you don't have to wait. We didn't have to get to work till 9 o'clock at night.
That's right.
But so I learned a lot just watching those guys. Yeah. And when I finally did begin to try it myself, I'd learned so much just by observing and feeling what they were doing. I didn't really peak at the Second City. I was just learning it, you know. I was sort of the new guy and for a while, and, you know, I was just getting kind of good. And then I got this this Saturday Night Live job. Yeah. And it was another ensemble group working with not only talented actors, but writers this time too. Yeah. So you got to use your writing skills and your acting skills. And it was a great secondary education. I mean, I started at Second City, and then I went to Saturday Night Live. It's like, if you did Saturday Night Live for 5 years, if you were on that show for 5 years, you're able to do anything. You could go and do anything. because it was really, you learned a lot. And all those pros, all those guys on the set, I mean, when we got that job, all those guys had done Your Show of Shows and Sid Caesar and all these things. Yeah. They'd seen it all, they'd done it all. And they were guys, you know, who we were just kids. And they would just go, and they would tell you something, and it was an amazing education.
Timing is important, I assume. I know
I'm not going to make the joke.
Okay. On the flip side of that, I mean, it would seem to me that if you do comedy, you develop a higher sense of timing than if you simply had nothing but dramatic experience. That's a serious question.
Well, yes, and a fair one. It seems like, you know, at Second City, we didn't call ourselves comedians, even though we were funny.
Exactly.
We were actors.
Exactly.
And so
comedic actors.
And being funny, being funny, you got to be able to play straight to be funny, which is sounds like a paradox, but it's not. You have to be able to play straight to play funny. So if you can play straight to play funny, playing straight is not a big thing at all. You know, like lots of so-called funny people can be very good in a dramatic role. You know, I mean, I started making comedies because I came out of Saturday Night Live, and those were the jobs I would get asked to do. And then after a while, people would ask me to play like straighter parts, and now I get all kinds of straight parts, and people think, oh, you've made a change in your life. Well, no, this is just what I get asked to do. I only do the ones I like, and lately people have been asking me to do straight things, or straight things that have a little bit of humor to them. But
do you wish they'd ask you to do comedy?
I don't know. I don't wish that, but sometimes I feel like I want to do something really funny. I'm feeling like I'm going to do something funny soon. And usually when I think that way, it comes, yeah.
See, that's a great thing to have. You can just wish something and it'll happen.
Well, it starts with a wish, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Yeah? So, like I had a wish that I could do a movie that was sort of romantic.
Yeah.
And then Sofia Coppola asked me to do this Lost in Translation, which was sort of a romantic movie. You know, it was about love, even though I wasn't in love with Scarlett Johansson. Yeah. She was in love and struggling, and I was in love and struggling. So we talked about love. It really was about love.
Nominated for an Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were going to win it.
I really did think I won all the prizes on the way to it.
I mean, you were the guy.
I had some funny things I was going to say. You know, I was ready to go. I didn't have
what were you
notes or anything.
Say?
Oh, I was going to say, you know, when I heard I'd been nominated with, you know, and I named these other people, I thought I really had a pretty good chance. That was my. You know, and I just saw that no one had ever given that speech.
That's exactly right.
No one had ever given that speech, and the people, you know, it was great because I didn't have, I didn't have agents, I didn't have managers, I didn't have any of that stuff, so I wouldn't have to give that sort of ordinary speech of thanking everyone. I would just go out there and entertain. I always figure, if you're on a TV show where there's 1 billion people, show up and do something, okay? Just do something. Give those folks in Bombay something to talk about.
This is my moment to speak to 1 billion people on the planet. And here's what I want to say.
I'm going to thank my hairdresser? What? What?
Yes, sir.
What? My personal
trainer? I want to thank... There's somebody else. I can't remember who it is.
Yeah, and then they forget. And then they're going reading it off of notes. It's an actor, and he's reading his lines off a piece of paper.
So how disappointed were you at the moment?
Well, I was just sort of surprised. I was surprised. I didn't really feel...
You thought you waited?
Well, I was just surprised. I was really surprised.
Because you'd heard it before.
I wasn't like angry or anything. I was just like, what? And, well, that's... You know, that's the Academy. They do things funny sometimes. But I found later, about 6 months later, I realized that I'd come down with something. I sort of like that prize-winning stuff and about the prizes, that I'd sort of had like a low-grade infection of liking winning the prize and wanting to win the prize. Yes. And I thought, oh, good. Because I often see, and I'm sure you've witnessed it too, people win the prize, and then for the next couple of years, they really struggle because they're sort of stuck. Like, hey, I'm an Academy Award winner, baby.
So-
And so now what do I do?
I want to see an Academy Award-winning script.
Exactly. And so they can't pull the trigger on anything, and then they start thinking, I've got to find a script that's an Academy Award-winning script, and so then they get all messed up.
So they don't work for 3 years.
And I think that, you know, that possibly could have happened to me. But I realized it took me, it was only months later I went, oh my God, look at me. Look what that happened to me.
Are you a confident guy who says, when you saw that script and saw that opportunity, I can nail this? Within me is the capacity with this script to do an Academy Award-winning performance.
Well, I didn't think of it as an Academy Award-winning performance.
But I know how to nail this character.
But yes, I knew I was going to nail that character.
Why did you know?
When you are a man, you know, Charlie. Charlie, when you are not yet man, you are a boy. When you are a man, you'll know. It's
I certainly hope so.
you just know. I mean, Sophia had gone through a whole process of trying to find me and getting. She called all kinds of people, and I met her.
Yeah.
I found her just charming, just wonderful, and self-assured. And I thought, okay, I'm throwing in with her. I like her. Then she sent me the script. I looked at the script. It wasn't overwritten. It wasn't sentimental. It wasn't maudlin. It was clean. It was really spare. It was only about 95 pages or 94 pages, something like that. You know, screenplays can be 130, 140. You know, they can get ugly. And I just thought, oh, look at this. It's all there. Everything is there. I mean, and I can bring a little bit more to this too. And I know what I know what she's talking about here. I know what she's talking about. It sort of it resonates with me.
What was she talking about?
She was talking about like emotional intelligence and like what it means to really be in love, you know, to really love someone and to be torn with the idea of being faithful to it and struggling with that and seeing yourself in that moment, because you're in front of that moment of like, how am I? You know, it's like St. Peter denied Jesus, right?
Yes.
You know, St. Peter, pretty solid guy.
I didn't know the guy.
But even St. Peter, you know, chickened out.
Yes, he did.
You know, and any man or woman can chicken out in the face of pressure. Yeah. And so here were some people under pressure, and how did they deal with it, and they shared something, and rather than like let the pressure sort of throw them at each other, they just sort of threw their feelings at each other without a demand or responsibility to like change each other's route.
And so what did you whisper in her ear?
You know, I told someone once, I told someone the truth once, and they didn't believe me. And they didn't believe me, so I just said, the hell with it, I'm never telling anyone.
But have you thought about it since then, or has she told you, or do you know?
Has who told me? Well, I whispered in her ear, but the moment happened. There was a moment when it happened, and when it actually happened, I was mic'd. I was wired. You know, they had microphones, and so there I was mic'd to wire it, and Ava Cabrera, who was the script supervisor, and Sophia had this moment where they just looked at her and said, "You don't have to say anything. You don't have to hear anything." At the same moment, and I had the same feeling from 60 yards away. I went, it doesn't matter what the hell I say in her ear in this picture. This is really, it'll be just a wonderful mystery. But it was those two really, and then I heard them say it, and I was like, that's right, this is how it's going to roll.
When people want to hire you, what do you think they're hiring? What do you think they're looking for? Go
ahead, I want to finish that one. I'm hanging around for that one.
I certainly hope so. You know, other than experience and craft and talent, and you know, I mean, is there something within you and your persona, and they say, I need that persona in my film?
Well, I think I get some work now, because one thing I've sort of tried to do is not be sentimental, is try to really just squeeze all the schmaltz out of everything, and I just don't allow it. I try not to allow it, and I've been relatively successful doing that. And so if someone has a script that walks a tightrope of sentimentality, they can ask me, and because I will be committed to like not falling into that pit. I think that's one thing. I always feel like when they hire me, they get the whole thing, and which includes like goofing around on the set.
Yeah.
Like just trying to leaven it, just trying to leaven
But is
the
that simply
situation.
you're trying to leaven it up, or that's just who you are? I mean, you love him, I mean, I've heard stories about you that are enchanting. I mean, in a sense, you'll be walking by where they're doing a pickup basketball game or a stickball or something else, and you just want to go over there and get in their face and say, "Let me play."
Well, that's true. I can jump in. That's the available thing
Yeah,
we
exactly.
spoke of. Okay, that's
Yeah.
the available thing.
About being available to life's experiences.
Yes, yeah. Not feeling like I can't do that. I couldn't possibly do
I'm
that.
the same way. I mean, it's just the sense of being able to
Go.
know I can get inside of whatever kind of experience, whatever they're doing, and make them feel it's perfectly natural for you to be there.
The jobs I've had, it also looks like I'm game. Like
Exactly.
I'll try some stuff, and
And you
the
are.
sort of range of the movies I've done has sort of moved around a little bit. I've done some different kinds of things, and they know I come from an improvisational background, so I can sort of help out sometimes. If there's an area that's sort of like a little fuzzy here, we could throw him in there. Maybe he could figure out how to make this work a little bit, and I can do that. I'm a mature actor now, or relatively, and so, if you don't I always say, like, if you don't embarrass yourself and make a fool of yourself early on, people will trust you later. Like this sort of second generation of directors that I've gotten to work with, like Wes Anderson and Sophia. These are younger directors, and they go like, and and I've done casting myself, and you go like, you say like, oh, there's so and so. Oh God, he did that horrible. And you can cite some movie that you should be set fire to. But and if you don't make those movies that should be burned, people trust you. They think, okay, he hasn't sold his soul for money or fame.
For whatever it's worth, I mean, that there is some sense of, at the core, integrity about you. There is some sense
deep within. No.
I knew you'd ruin that.
Sorry.
But there is a sense of, you get a sense that there's something very real of that. The man who, as you said, squeezed all the schmaltz out of it. That's somehow the core of you. And you've decided in your own mind, in your own life, where that is.
Well, I've learned something about living.
Yeah.
I've learned something about living, and it works all the time. It works in life. It's like I can make it through the city. People say, how'd you get in here? Like I went into the Super Bowl press junket thing the other day in the Sheraton or something, and I just sort of like made my way through. How did you get through all this? Oh, I live here, It's like I know how to do things, I can get from this side of the street to the other. I don't get in trouble.
But you used to go to things, there's a couple of stories about you. You go in the places where you were invited, and somehow being able to look them in the face and sort of say, I belong here.
Well, if you don't feel like you're taking over anyone's space, you're like you're here to rob their fun, that you're here to share and contribute, people will let you go, It's like that feeling. Last night we went to the movie premiere, right?
Yeah.
And then there's a big party afterwards, and a lot of noise and alcohol and everything. But then you want to go out and get a bite to eat and just sort of decompress a little bit. We went to a little place called Smith. I've never been to Smith.
Yes.
It's over by Lincoln Center.
Right.
And it was a thing where you looked and you saw there were a handful of people in there. It was like, they're probably closing, So the guy driving the car said, "Do you want me to go and check?" I said, "Oh, let me try it." So I had a good feeling about myself. So I walked in and I looked at the maitre d', and he looked at me and the look was like, "Oh, sure. Here's this guy," And I said, "Hello. I was just wondering if you're still open. There's a couple of us, and we're just kind of thinking about. We were wondering if we had any food. Any food? It's a restaurant, right?" And he said, no, we just closed. And someone on the way in had said, he already sent 2 people away, so don't count anything. So he went in the back and he said, okay, steaks and salads, you know, and it turned out it was oysters too and everything.
Yeah, right.
But it was just great. But that was kind of the fun. It was like they could have gone home, but it was like, maybe this will be fun. And it ended up being a lot of fun. We made it a lot of fun, and you know, every week just clowned around, and we had fun with the cooks and the waitresses and the maitre d', and it was just a really nice time. And it was easy. We were all, you know, everyone's pretty easy and not difficult, and you know, that fun thing of getting in. It's like there's no limit how much fun, how much you can give. There's no limit.
And how much you can play. You really can play with somebody.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you can play with them, they'll open it all up, you know. And then you can make them a hero. And they love that.
Yes, and they were heroes.
Yeah.
They were, because there were 5 of us, and we didn't. And our prospects weren't good at midnight trying to find some food.
Yeah. Oh, you could found food.
Yeah, well, we could have found food, but we had to go drive through a lot of slush to get to it last night.
Wes Anderson, you mentioned several times. What is it about Wes and the films he makes that you instantly say yes when he calls?
Well, I got a lot of pressure to do Rushmore from. I had agents then, and lots of people, and I kept getting copies of Bottle Rocket, her first film. I have the largest single collection of Bottle Rocket videotapes in the world, because all kinds of people were sending them to me. Yeah. And then they sent me the script, and they said, and then it was like, okay, we're going to set up a meeting with you and Wes. I said, I don't have to meet with him. Yes. Long silence, and they were like, well, I think you should. I really, no, it's okay. I don't have to meet with him. I've read the script, and he knows exactly what he wants to do.
I was wrong. She just kept on lying. Now she tries to tell the truth, but I just can't believe.
And I'd never really seen that before in a script, where someone so specific, the script is so specific, he knew exactly what he was going to do. I said, I'm in, that's fine.
You could tell from the script.
Could tell from the script.
He was there.
And he's, obviously, his movies just keep getting better. Wait till you see this next one, this Grand Budapest Hotel. This
is,
yeah, this is like a Times Square billboard dropped on your head. It is amazing. It's amazing. It's really amazing.
He's coming into town soon.
Yeah. But he's just great fun. I mean, we've become great friends, and I really love him. I love him, and he makes the making of movies his life.
Yeah.
He really makes the living.
And he has his own style, his personal style.
Yeah, he has his own fashion sense, that's for sure. And he tries to dress everyone in the movies like himself, which is really cruel. And finally, I've had to say to the customers, yeah, I know he wants the cuffs this short. I don't go that way, okay? You can make his that short. You know, everyone's cuffs are this short. Your pants cuffs never reach your shoes. Yeah. And you dress like him in his various incarnations.
So what was it about the life of having all these people work for you, agents and the like, that you said, oh no, that's not what I want to do. I'll have a phone number. You can call the phone number. I'll hear the message. And if I want to call you back, I'll call you back. I'll take it seriously, but I don't need all this other stuff.
Well, that became too much. I remember hearing Ellen Burstyn say, I had a dream that I was being drowned in a flood. And I realized it was a flood of people. And she had all these people living around her and doing all this stuff. Yeah. But I found that the phone, like I'd be in my home and the phone would ring. And it would ring and ring, like 30 times, 40 times. And then it would stop. And you go like, who in the hell was that? Yeah. And then 3 minutes later, the phone would ring. And it would be 30 or 40 times. And finally, I'd just walk over and go like, who is this? And it would be, oh, hi, is he there for Michael? And I'd go like, you've got to get another job. It was just like that someone would, their job was to let the phone ring 6,000 times in the hope that someone would answer. I thought, this is just.
And if they haven't been able to find you because somebody said, go find him, they'll call every 3 minutes.
Everywhere. They'll call every place. They'll call your relatives.
I know. So you decide I don't need all that.
I just couldn't. Well, and then, you know, I had the greatest. I had Michael Ovitz. He was like the great agent. He was, you know, he was my monster. He was great. You know, I mean, he's a famous character, but he was my character. You know, and when he's on your side, boy, life, you know, he is a weapon. He's really something. And I loved him, and he was great. But then when he stopped, he became something else. He was no longer an agent.
Right. He became an executive.
He became, yeah, all kinds of things. So then it just changed. It just changed, and the other people were lovely and wonderful people, but it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same. And I found then I really started looking at it a little more closely and realizing that so much of what they do is they want to just sort of corral you with someone else within their company or. You know, I don't know. It was just a lot of phone calls that I didn't really want to take. I just didn't want to talk.
So today, if they want to reach you, I mean, there's a phone number they know they can call, and you know, you'll at least find somebody who has that
figure
number.
it out. I mean, some people get they get frustrated and they just can't get you. You know, that's all right. You know, you miss some, but I don't think I've ever missed any that I really wanted. You know, but it just cleans your life out, just purifies your space a little bit. You don't have to have all these. I mean. I'd rather choose my own distractions, you know, than have someone else.
Well, you're in charge of your own life, in a big way.
More than
most. Yeah. I mean, that's what I meant in the beginning. I mean, you have, in a sense, defined the kind of life you want to have.
Well, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. It's.
What's not there that you want to get to?
Oh, I think I'd like to wake up better. You know, I was thinking, talking about with
waking up
yesterday, who suggested, why not try, you know, just try in the morning and just keep an eye on what you do when you wake up. You know, I wake up sometimes and I go like, God damn, this pillow's good, you know, or God damn, I wish I were, you know, with that person or something, you know. I wish I were somewhere else. Instead of like jumping up. I did hear a good thing one day. I went to church. I go to the soulful black church in the Catholic church in Charleston sometimes.
Where the music is fine.
Where the music is better. And the gospel sometimes, the preaching can be kind of good. Right. And he just said, and they had like a guest guy one day, and he said, how about this? You wake up in the morning and you wake up and you look up and say, Lord, what do you want me to do?
Exactly.
And I haven't held on to that for forever, but that was a great feeling to think, what do you want me to do? Like, I'm awake now. What do you want me to do?
So when you look at where you are and comedy today, I think back about Caddyshack. And this is this wonderful thing about it. And I'll tell you what it relates to for me. There was a guy named Norman Cousins. He used to be editor of a magazine called Saturday Review. Mm-hmm. And he had a very serious life-threatening disease. And he found out that laughter helped him. Mm-hmm. And he would put up things that made him laugh. Mm-hmm. And I'm told that that's part of what Caddyshack does as a therapeutic experience.
I guess I can tell this story, but you know who Stevie Nicks is from Fleetwood Mac? She told me this story too, and I always thought she was like an ice queen. I never got the hell. I loved her voice, but I was like sort of, you know. She came to me once. She just walked up and said, you know, I was having a hard time once, and I watched that movie. And I watched it like for a week or something. I just kept watching that movie, and it just cheered me up so much. And I thought, man, if I did something like that for someone who's such an important person to so many people and what she brings, you know, I felt really good about that. But it's true about the laughter thing. And Norman Cousins is famous. I think he watched Abbott and Costello and Chaplin and all those guys, and that's what he did. And he healed himself. Yeah. And it's you know, laughter is the best medicine, isn't that what it said in Reader's Digest?
And when you think about movies like that, and you think about Ghostbusters, are those movies that are of a different era than today, and nobody's going to make them? Has comedy and comedic movies gone to a different place?
Well, you know, if I could be sort of constructively critical
of me,
no, not of you, of like just what I feel like about the funny ones. Like I just feel like some of the concepts, some of the premises are so unrealistic in a way, you know, that it doesn't hold a whole, you know, you have to be able to engage with the characters. And if the premises are so big and such a heavy load, you can't hang them on a character. You can't hang them on a person. So you don't really react and respond to the character any longer. You're just going with the gags. It's just the gags and the situations. You don't really get the characters so much. You don't feel that they're driving it. They're pulling you into the stuff. But I think but there is like Bridesmaids. I thought Bridesmaids was just a wonderfully funny movie because I thought the premise was so good. Bridesmaids, right?
Yes.
It's a powerful premise, but the characters were so good, and they were so like the girl, like Kristen Wiig, trying to be in love with like the cop and that crazy thing. That it was so real that you committed, you engaged, you bought in. I don't buy into these high premise movies. I go, oh, you can't make me believe that this could ever possibly happen.
Have you turned down things you wish you'd made?
I thought about it. There was no, I've never turned down anything I wished I'd made. I turned down movies that I knew were going to be successful, but I never turned down anything I wished I'd made.
They had all the ingredients of commercial
success.
success.
Like Airplane. I read Airplane. I was like, well, this is going to work, but it's not for me.
Yeah.
But it's going to work. I just didn't, and there have been things that I knew someone was going to make, and there have been a lot of movies that I've passed on that people have made, and they've had great success with, but they just weren't for me.
So tell me what it is that you want that you don't have.
Well, I'd like to be more consistently here, I'd like to really get on I'd like to just, and I know it's not probably ever maybe possible, but because it's so improbable and so impossible, I'd just like to really see how long I could last as being really here, really in it, really alive in the moment, And you see people, I like to live to be old, so I think I have a chance. That'd be my only chance. It's like, a golfer wants to shoot his age. I better live to be 100 because that's my only shot, right?
No.
So
that's one of my great dreams too. But go ahead. So you want?
So I'd like to just be more here all the time, and I'd like to see what I could get done, what I could do if I really didn't cloud myself with automatic. If I were able to not get distracted, to not change channels in my mind and body, So I were just, I'm my own channel, I was just really here and always with you, that you could look at me and go, okay, he's there, there's someone there, and I could, how it is when you look in the mirror, you don't think about it, but you look in the mirror and you go, oh, sure, there's that guy, and you catch yourself like what you were, the state you were in when you looked in the mirror. And then you can make a face and kind of toughen yourself up or handsome yourself up or whatever you do. But when you catch yourself in that mirror, you see the state you're in. Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you confident? Are you rosy? Are you beleaguered? Are you here? And most of the time you're not. You're just like, oh. It's almost like you want to look away because it's like, that's not me there. That's what I'm doing right now, but that's not necessarily me.
What's necessary for you to get there?
Well, it's all contained in your body, everything you got. Right. Your mind, your spirit, your soul, your emotions, it's all contained in your body. All the prospects, all the chances you ever have. I keep thinking of this Clint Eastwood line. You kill a man, you kill every opportunity he ever had. I think, I don't know which movie that's from, but it's a good one.
It's a really good line.
That's a really good line.
You kill every opportunity he ever had.
Every chance that guy ever had.
And I often think about lives and say what might have happened if that person had lived.
Right. Like we think about, Belushi.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a week ago, it was like, God,
exactly.
He's been dead as long as he's been alive now. Mm-hmm. He's been dead now as long as he was alive. And you think, that's a funny sand dial to put in front of yourself, to flip that thing over and it's done. It's that wish to you know, it's a wish, right? It's really a wish. So, you know, you gotta dream, not dream, but you gotta wish big. You gotta wish big. And I'd like to see what I could do. I got a sort of a drunken phone call from a friend of mine's sister, who I really like, and she's funny because she's really funny and she drinks a little. She called me in the middle of the night, and I was like, oh boy, you know, you ever get someone call you if they're not at their best?
Yes.
But she was so charming and she was so lovely, and she just kept saying, you have no idea how much you could do, Bill. If you could just, you could do so much. And I've never had anyone talk like that. And it was funny because it was like a drinking phone call in the middle of the night, and I listened to her for 40 minutes or so, 45 minutes while I was sound asleep. But it was really like it came from the other side. You know, it felt like it. It was sort of like a voice that was sort of intoxicated, or like one of the visionaries, you know, a visionary speaking to you in the night and coming on into your dream. And I hope to remember that kind of thing. You just try to remember those things, that encouragement, you know.
I suspect you know, whatever she was saying to you, you knew it somewhere. You do know that inside of you.
Well, it resonated. It rang a bell inside of me, a bell that rings a lot that says, remember, Bill, come back, you know, remember. This is your life. This is the only one you got. As we always say to my one brother, this is not a dress rehearsal. This is your life.
Yes.
This is not a dress rehearsal. This is your life, you know. So.
Thank you for coming.
Oh, I've enjoyed
pleasure,
this.
as always.
Thanks for asking me.
Oh, thank you. Good.
You're just going to sit down?
Yeah, I think, why don't we all just sit down for a sec?
Later this month, he appears in the Grand Budapest Hotel, the latest film by Wes Anderson, who is one of his closest collaborators. He is a pop culture icon and has been called by The New Yorker one of the world's most appealing hipsters. I spoke with him recently, and we talked about many things, including the life that he lives.
What was the attraction of Monuments Men for you?
Well, the story is is a story that most people have never heard. The story of a core of, like a clique, a platoon of guys going out to hunt down the stolen art.
Who were artists rather than soldiers.
Who are artists rather than soldiers, and mature men, not warriors, not enlistees and not draftees, but guys who are past the warrior, soldier stage, asked to join the effort and go on this hunt.
We forget in times like this in war that one of the casualties of war is cultural treasures.
Right. Well, Iraq was a big one, right?
Yeah,
where,
exactly.
We sort of cleaned house in Iraq. We sort of won the war in 95 minutes or something. But their museums were looted and robbed. And I don't know if that stuff's ever been tracked down.
A lot of it has, I think.
Yeah. But that's something that really goes, and things disappeared. And with the sort of systematic looting of the Western Europe museums by Hitler and his people, they really took a lot of stuff that, that story just a few months ago, they're still finding it.
Yeah,
still
exactly.
finding. What did they say that was worth? $1.5 billion or $4.5 billion?
A lot of them one house.
One guy.
One guy had done that. So there's the story. It's a great story, based on a book by Robert Edsel, I think. Did you read the book?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you read the book before you accepted the role, or did?
No, George told me the story of the movie a year before while eating, pasta and salad, and I just went, oh God, that sounds so good. But then, I thought, I wish George would have asked me to be in that movie. It sounds so good. And then 9 months later, he said, "Are you busy?"
And you said?
Yeah, I'm not busy. I mean, I'm busy, but I'm not that busy.
Not that busy. Did you like the character?
Yeah, it was great. It's a sort of a composite. We didn't name anyone. We didn't use anyone's name, but it was a handful of men, and you put them together. The character was great. I mean, the character as it was written by Grant Heslov and George was just a wonderful character. Every actor in the movie has great stuff to do. Every actor is given
it's a hell of a cast.
A home run swing.
Think about it.
A couple of home run swings throughout the film.
Yeah.
And so it's really made for you to have great turns, great scenes, while you're telling a story, this interesting story.
And how does George work as a director?
George is extremely well prepared. George comes to work in a great mood every day. You know, it's the lightest set I've ever been on, really. I usually feel like I have to be the one that keeps things light. You know, I'm always trying to calm people down or loosen them up. George was just, and Grant, they were both hilarious all the time. And you put all those people in one place. We got more tall tales and lies and stories to tell, as John says it.
The making of the movie is more.
You know, you'd stop, you'd shoot a scene, and then you'd stop, and then you would just balderdash for like 25 minutes and just laugh. And really, you'd laugh until you hurt. It was that hard, because people are pulling out their best stories to just throw them over the top of the previous one. And
You can't top this, can you?
Yeah, and you could, and people did top them. It was really fun. It was really like the Old West.
Yeah. He's a prankster, too.
Well, he's famous for playing a lot of pranks, and he didn't do so much on this one. He had one good one on Matt Damon. Matt Damon had this event. He was going to renew his vows with his wife, and he was working out all the time, so it really looked like he did when he first got married or something. And George told the seamstresses on the film to take in his pants a quarter of an inch every 2 weeks. So he'd go away and he'd come back and he'd put the pants on, and all of us knew, but everyone was, you know, dead faced and, you know, deadpanning, looking at him, and you see just the look on his face, like, God, it was.
Locations were good, too.
Well, Berlin's pretty great. I don't know if you've spent any time there, but it's really nice. It's really a bubbling place. It's an artist colony, and very unique even in Germany. It's sort of like Austin, Texas. It's very different than Texas.
Exactly.
Berlin is very different than the rest of Germany. And all the artists of Europe flee there because it's inexpensive. It's very reasonable to live. People live like sort of like socialists. There's the squatters and so forth. I know an American guy who was like a socialist here who moved to Berlin, and he rents out his little sort of place, and he squats somewhere else. You know, he's just a crazy guy. But
I know a lot of architects